Hello and welcome to this webinar where I'm going to be taking you through a new customer occasion. We have seen the increase in popularity of the occasion for competitive socializing over the last few years. And this is the third year that KAM have released a report looking into what the customer wants from this particular part of hospitality. I'm going to be sharing with you today some insight into this particular occasion that was conducted in April this year, so hot off the press, one would say. And we spoke to 500 UK adult consumers who have visited a competitive socializing venue over the last year. So with no further ado, let's put a little bit of context behind this and let's talk about how Brits are feeling right now. And you can see there the highly highlighted emotions are happy, stressed, frustrated, content, optimistic. This might seem like possibly a slightly negative view of current feelings of the UK adult public, but actually this is kind of usual for us. And this is pretty much what we were seeing prior to the pandemic. So this gives you a rough idea of where the mind of the British people sits more often than not. But Gen Z, and of course, Gen Z is a very important demographic for this particular occasion, this particular part of hospitality. They are more likely to be happy, but they are also more likely to be bored. And that has got a lot to do with the success of this particular occasion for that particular demographic. They say that with Gen Z, they have a 7-second attention span when it comes to something online. So if something isn't working for them within 7 seconds, that's it, they're on to the next thing. So they are more likely to get bored with anything that doesn't hit that speed of service, that speed that they need to see from the venues that they are in and from the content that they are consuming. The most important issues facing the UK consumer on May the 8th, 2023, and we are recording now just about a month later. The number one was the economy. Obviously, we have a crisis going on at the moment, a cost of living crisis, inflation going through the roof. Essentially, the UK economy seems like it's a bit in the bin at the moment, and that has not gone unnoticed by the UK public. Neither has the idea that health, which ever since the pandemic has occupied a higher spot on the list of things that I'm concerned about as a UK citizen. Immigration, we're obviously seeing a lot about that in the news at the moment, and then the environment. We tend to see that the focus on environment, on sustainability, on green credentials slips back a little bit when there is a cost of living crisis or when there is any kind of economic or political uncertainty. And that is purely because people have other things on their mind that are more pressing, more worrying to them at the moment. So changes in spend have already hit hospitality. So this again is from a piece of research conducted earlier this year, where we asked 1,000 UK consumers what were they doing when it comes to hospitality at the moment. You see there 48% of people said that they are consciously trying to spend less when in venue, 40% visiting pubs and bars less frequency. You know, this just shows us that we have to make sure that we show our customers the best value for money that we possibly can, because they're not coming to our venues as often. They are buying fewer drinks. They might be choosing cheaper drinks, and they're going out less frequently. But you've got that 14% there that are going out less frequently but spending more when they do. And what competitive socializing is being very successful at the moment is that idea of really maximizing that spend when in venue by increasing dwell time. Why the focus on competitive socializing? Great quote here from Tom, the finance director at Riley's Sports Bar. It's all about experience. It's always all about having that point of differentiation. It's not just about going out, excuse me, for a quiet pint now, although that is still very much a valid occasion, but it's not necessarily the occasion that some of the customers that we're going to speak about in this webinar are looking for. So Humans are inherently lazy. We know this. The Gen Zs that we spoke to, 97% of them said, I want pubs and bars to provide me with an experience that I can't get at home. And that's still at 88% for the rest of the demographic. It just shows that whole idea of experience is so important. What can I not get from my living room that I'm currently recording in, because I'm in the middle of moving house and this is the only room that doesn't look like a bomb's hit it. So you won't see my normal office background behind me that I've had for the last 4 years. But, you know, I need something that's going to get me off this sofa, that's going to take me somewhere and give me something I can't provide for myself at home. 1 in 2 people that we spoke to as part of the Competitive Socialising Insight report want to see more pubs and bars start to offer elements of competitive gaming. Now, this does not necessarily mean that we have to have the all bells and whistles and a big area that's dedicated to it. It's just about having something that we can offer to customers that gives that point of differentiation. That's much higher for Gen Z and for parents. For the kids, this is such an undervalued segment. We are not doing enough to encourage parents and children and that sort of family occasion in. There are 278 million family dining occasions in the UK every year, and it's worth £3 billion. If we could convert one of those per month to a competitive socializing venue, that would be not only great for the parents with the demanding children, but it would be great for our sector, because we've got this dead time where perhaps the competitive socializing venues are not being used as much as they could be. And that particular time is exactly the time that parents are looking to keep their children busy, and therefore having a family-friendly offering, I think, is absolutely imperative. Let's look at the current state of play. I want to look at here about value, about price, about what people are willing to pay. But also, most importantly, we need to remember that actually, when you are talking about competitive socializing, let's not throw out the idea of food and beverage, because actually I'm going to show you how important that is going through these next few slides. This is some insight from our friends at Wireless Social. Thank you to them. Looking at the increase of Wi-Fi logins in April 22 to 23 versus the previous year. So if you look at this, we had 27% of people checking in on a quick service restaurant, 23% casual dining, 22% competitive socializing. So that's now above the idea of a community pub, a food pub, a restaurant, way above a bar. So footfall is strong. That is the increase that we're seeing year on year. 39% of the UK population told us that they'd visited a competitive socializing venue, and that's versus 27% in 2022. That is quite the uplift in just 1 year. And it's really important to note that 32% of those people are visiting competitive socializing venues more often than they were last year. So we're not just getting more people visiting, but they're actually visiting more when they do. And the 18 to 25-year-olds are really pushing this up. But again, please don't forget those other generations, those other demographics who are incredibly important to us. We've actually also seen that out of those people that have been to see a competitive socializing a venue, 21% of them went on their own. And I think that again is an underrated group of people who we may not be catering for quite as well as we could. So 21% of people who've been to a competitive socializing venue have been on their own. What are we doing to encourage those solo visits, to make those solo visits feel comfortable, and to make those particular customers themselves happy? Let's talk about the competitive socializing crowd. Sorry, just going back a slide there. The average group size for competitive socializing crowd is 4.53. 6% of the UK population have been alone, but 20% of those who regularly socialise competitively have been alone. The games are wide-reaching. What we're seeing now is a much broader appeal. We're seeing everything from the OG competitive socializing, things like skittle alleys in the backs of pubs and original darts boards, etc., right the way through to that bells and whistles and those flashing lights and those amazing venues that we're seeing popping up, people like Boom Battle Bar, etc., where you can actually do various different games all in one place. Also worth noting that the competitive socializing crowd, the larger the crowd is, the older they tend to be. The smaller the crowd, the younger they seem to be. So we see a lot of, obviously, corporate visits to competitive socializing, and that's probably what accounts for the fact that the larger groups tend to be slightly older. These occasions, date, work, social, and special occasions, are actually more popular in competitive socializing venues than in pubs or bars. That's not to say more people are doing it, but that's to say that the percentage of people within those venues is higher. Where we're under-indexing in competitive socializing is going out with a partner, a trip out with a family. I've already mentioned what an opportunity that is, and then a catch up with friends and family. And presumably the latter is because it's just not conducive to a good old chat and catch up if you're in a noisy venue. Is there a way that we can make these venues suitable for that as well? Can we look at zoning? Can we look at being as clever with our zones as we are in pubs and bars to make sure that actually that group of people would also be happy to go into a competitive socializing venue to catch up with each other? Current barriers for customers is the cost of going out in general. Now, this is not something that we can change, but what we can change is how they value that that event, going out, you know, making it memorable, making sure that they feel it is worth the money that they are spending on it. Location, none near me. All I can say, guys, is open more, especially if you're looking at the towns rather than the cities. A lot of the people who don't live near one of the major cities told us that actually I just don't have access to it unless I'm going to get 3 buses and a train in order to get into the city. So I think that a rollout into towns is maybe with smaller venues, smaller cost bases, I think is something that definitely needs to be thought about and discussed. Cost of competitive socializing versus other pubs and bars, it's not necessarily more expensive. This is a bit of a PR issue for me. We need to really, really nail in this idea of value for money because of the experience you're having. And then having to book in advance. A lot of venues do have walk-in options, a lot don't. And I think that we are more and more likely to value spontaneity as we've come out of the pandemic. You find that people tend to be split into 2 groups. They're either spontaneous or they're those pre-planned customers. We need to make sure that we are making it easy for both of those groups to visit us, especially if you look at this insight from Bums on Seats. 7.5 days is the average lead time for a booking in 2022. In 2023, 3.4 days. So we are booking things with less notice. We are organizing things with less notice. We've really got to make sure that we have the ability and the technology to ensure that both types of people, the pre-bookers and the spontaneous people, can be happy. How do customers research venues? So 60% of the people that we spoke to as part of Competitive Socializing 2023 had researched a venue before they visited. So you've got to make sure that that online experience and that searching is absolutely spot on and is seamless for the customer. 69% still doing just a general internet search. 31% for Facebook, and that of course would lean in towards perhaps the older groups of people that are visiting us. Google's near me search tool, and then you go down to website, Instagram, word of mouth, still very important there at 22%. So it's just really important that we cover all of these bases when it comes to customer research and what they might be doing. Let's talk in in-venue experience. Again, another partner of ours, another friend of KAM's, Feed It Back, have given us this data, which is all about how happy our consumers, our customers, when they come into our venues. So this is an NPS score that we see across the business that Feed It Back have collected. What you'll see there is competitive socializing is absolutely knocking every other area of hospitality out of the park. The red line is competitive socializing venues. The line below it, call it blue, call it green, is the industry minus those venues. So you can see there the difference that competitive socializing has when it comes to NPS compared to the rest of the venue. But it is still not everything that we want it to be. 61% said that they wouldn't stay in venue once they'd finished playing. Got to admit, been in a lot of these venues myself, it's very much you're shepherded out at the end. The experience stops once you put your gun down, or you put your darts down, or you put your golf club or your axe or whatever it might be down. We need to really look at what is the incentive for somebody to stay on for another drink, for something to eat, for another 2 or 3 drinks. We need to have spaces that are inviting and welcoming to customers once they are finished the gaming part of their visit. And that is backed up by 44% who told us that there just isn't a good enough area to eat and relax when not playing. So that, I think, is something that will evolve as the industry, as this part of the industry evolves. Food options are too limited. Got to say, I agree. I presented this insight at the Competitive Socialising event last month, and I had a lot of conversations with people about beige food, and food options in competitive socializing need to be as good as in pubs and bars, because otherwise people are simply not going to stay for it. There's too much beige, there's too much fried. This is not everybody. There are some people that are doing it great out there. I really rate Clay's and what they're doing, and there are plenty of other operators as well. 50% of people find it difficult to order drinks whilst playing. Not really had that issue myself, because we're normally in a big group when we go. The KAM team loves a bit of competitive socializing. But again, if it's going to take me, if it's going to be a hassle for me to order a drink, I'm just not going to do it. And I'm going to play my game as quickly as possible to get out. So we need to make it simple. We need to be offering pre-ordering. We need to have button press ordering as well. I think that the big point here for me is that only 23% of the people that visit a competitive socializing venue are actually in that venue for a 4-hour period. And they should be, they could be. They are in pubs, they are in bars, often in restaurants where there isn't a time limit. So we need to be working on that. The average dwell time could be much better. So in all hospitality venues, 78 minutes. In competitive socializing venues, 86 minutes. Again, thanks to Wireless Social for that, but that's not a big enough change for me. We should be talking half again as long in competitive socializing venues. Competitive social venues are also only part of a day or a night out. 54% of the competitive socializers visit those venues as part of a bar crawl, or part of a circuit, or part of a day out. We need to stop people from moving on immediately. We need them to be coming in earlier. We need a pre and post area to drink and eat. I mean, is there a way, for example, that we can offer a free drink to the winner of each game? We know that that person is going to stay and have that drink. We know the people with them are going to buy a drink to keep them company, unless, of course, they've really fallen out about the result of the game. What do customers want? 65% of people told us they want sharing food. They want food they can eat with their hands. They want street food. They want bite-sized food. But this does not mean they want crap food. This means that we need to be making the food part of the experience, not an afterthought, not an also or an on the side. And actually, there was no real no particular type of food that was really called out by customers as being, here's what I want. All of these 4 that you see on the screen now were quite similar in the percentage of people that wanted them. What that tells us is you've got some customers that would be very happy for you to experiment with that food. You know, these are people that like to try new things, obviously, otherwise they wouldn't be in your competitive socializing venues in the first place. There is that opportunity to experiment, and I just don't think we're doing it enough at the moment within the industry. Moving on to drinks, cocktails, low and no alcohol alternatives. Really high demand compared to other hospitality venues. We have to get that category right in these venues. If we don't, we are going to be losing a lot of people, including the income that we can have from the younger generation, who have already told us that if they don't have a low or no alcohol alternative that they like, and if they're not going to have a alcoholic drink, that 22% of them will just choose tap water, and that is literally money down the drain. We need to not scrimp on quality as well. Sickly sweet pre-mixed cocktails that do not offer any kind of value for money, and therefore value of experience to people. I'm not saying you shouldn't have pre-made cocktails. There are some great options out there, but we've got to make sure we do not lose the quality alongside perhaps the quantity that we are serving. And in case you needed me to tell you why you should improve food specifically. We asked the people that we spoke to as part of Competitive Socialising 2023 whether, if competitive socializing venues improved their food and drink offer, what would it make you do? 74% said I would spend more money there if you improve the food. 65% said that for drinks. 73% said dwell time would improve if they improve the food. 65% for drinks, and 67% versus 65% for food and drinks would visit more often. So you really can see that the F&B offer in these venues is incredibly important, and certainly more important than the effort that I see going into it at the moment. If I am totally honest, that's not everyone. Lots of people are doing it great. So top tips, just to finish off: create an immersive experience, a shareable experience, get those organic photo opportunities. And a part of that is all to do with having good food and drink. Prioritize customer engagement. Don't try and sell to your customers, engage them, make sure they're enjoying themselves, make sure that they want to be engaged with your brand. Review your pre-sales strategy, but don't miss out on walk-ins. Refocus on food. Shareable is absolutely key, but so is non-beige and non-fried at all times. There's a space for all of that, but not at all times. Thank you very much. Biggest barrier is perceived cost. So we need to defy customer expectations. We need to surprise and delight them. We need to make sure that they believe what they have spent their hard-earned cash on was worthwhile. Stay close to your customers. Make sure you know who they are. They will change. Customers ebb and flow. Make sure that you are doing research, whether it's through us or not. Make sure you are researching into your customers on a regular basis. It's incredibly important that you understand what their needs and wants are. And then finally, do not ever challenge KAM at shuffleboard, because we are absolutely brilliant at it. If you want to download the report, there is the QR code for you. And if you've got any questions for me, I can be found at Katy, Katy, at kam-media.co.uk. Thank you very much for listening to, watching this webinar. I look forward to seeing the march of competitive socializing continue, and I look forward to seeing some of you out there in some of these venues. Thank you.